Imagine a quiet neighborhood where a 9-year-old girl goes to bed one night just like any other. But by morning, she's gone. No signs of a struggle, no clues left behind, except for the fact that she was last seen walking alone along a dark highway in the pouring rain. This is the chilling mystery of Asha Degree, who vanished on Valentine's Day in the year 2000, leaving behind a trail of confusion and heartbreak that has gripped her community for over 2 decades. What happened to Asha Degree? How did a seemingly normal night turn into a 20-year search for answers? Before we dive deeper into this case, don't forget to support the channel, subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts as we uncover the mysteries of Asha Degree's disappearance. Asha Jaquila Degree was born on August 5th, 1990, to Harold and Aquila Degree, a hardworking and loving couple residing in Shelby, North Carolina. Asha was the younger of two children, with her older brother, O'Brien, sharing the family's small, close-knit home. Asha's family was deeply rooted in faith, attending church regularly and living a quiet, stable life. Her parents made sure Asha and her brother were raised with strong values, ensuring they stayed close to home and focused on school, sports, and their community. From an early age, Asha was known to be bright, responsible, and mature for her age. She excelled in her studies at Falston Elementary School, where her teachers described her as a diligent student. Asha had a calm, shy personality and was naturally introverted, preferring quiet activities like reading and drawing. Despite her reserved nature, she was full of life and energy in her own quiet way, enjoying basketball and spending time with her family. Asha played for her local youth basketball team, and though she was shy off the court, her competitive spirit and determination were evident in games. Her parents, Harold and Aquila, were deeply devoted to their children and described their family life as happy and without any significant issues. They provided a stable home, and both parents worked hard to give Asha and O'Brien everything they needed. The Degree family's routine was simple but fulfilling, filled with school, church, and family time, making Asha's disappearance all the more shocking. There was no indication that anything was amiss in Asha's life leading up to her disappearance. She had no history of running away, no behavioral issues, and seemed like any other well-loved 9-year-old. The Degree family's strong bond and religious background made it impossible for them to imagine why Asha would leave on her own, setting the stage for the baffling mystery that would soon unfold. The night of February 13th, 2000 was an ordinary Sunday for Asha Degree and her family. After a typical day at church and visiting family members, they returned home to wind down. Asha, being responsible and routine driven, went to bed around 8 o'clock in the evening. She shared a room with her brother, O'Brien, and the children both fell asleep without any known issues. That same night, a power outage struck the neighborhood, caused by a nearby car accident. The outage lasted from around half past midnight until 2:30 in the morning. Despite the brief disruption, Asha's parents did not notice anything unusual. Her father, Harold Degree, checked on both Asha and O'Brien at around 2:30, ensuring they were asleep before heading to bed himself. When Harold peeked into their room, everything seemed normal. Both children appeared sound asleep, and there were no signs of anything amiss. The house was quiet and locked up as usual. It was a seemingly peaceful night, but what would happen over the next few hours would leave the family and the community with unanswered questions for years to come. In the early hours of February 14th, 2000, Asha Degree was spotted by two motorists walking along Highway 18, a desolate stretch of road in North Carolina. Between 3:30 and 4:15 in the morning, these two witnesses, driving through the dark and stormy weather, saw something that immediately struck them as unusual: a young girl walking alone on the side of the road. The details of this sighting have become one of the key mysteries in her disappearance, as it was completely out of character for Asha to be outside on her own, especially in such dangerous conditions. The first sighting came from a truck driver who saw Asha walking southbound along the highway. The weather that night was particularly bad, heavy rain and cold temperatures, but Asha was seen without a jacket, hat, or gloves. Despite the adverse weather, Asha continued walking with determination. She didn't appear lost or disoriented, rather, she seemed to have a sense of purpose, although where she was headed remains unknown. The truck driver found it so odd to see a child walking alone in the middle of the night, especially in such bad weather, that he turned his rig around to check on her. However, when he did, Asha quickly ran into the woods, disappearing into the darkness. The second sighting occurred shortly after, around 4:15 in the morning, when another motorist reported seeing Asha in the same area walking in the rain along Highway 18. This driver also found it strange that such a young girl would be out at that hour and in those conditions. By the time either witness could react, Asha was gone, leaving no trace of her path or intentions. What stands out about these sightings is not just the unusual nature of a child walking alone on a highway, but the context of Asha's home life. She had no known reason to leave home. Her family described her as a cautious child, not prone to running away or breaking rules. Even more puzzling was the fact that there was no apparent explanation for why she would have been out that night. The area she was last seen in was about a mile from her home, and with no known destination in mind, her actions raised more questions than answers. The fact that she fled into the woods when approached only deepened the mystery. It suggested either fear or a deliberate effort to remain unseen, but what was driving that fear remains unknown. These sightings marked the last confirmed time Asha Degree was ever seen, and they left investigators scrambling to understand what could have led to such a strange and tragic sequence of events. When Asha's parents discovered she was missing on the morning of February 14th, 2000, their immediate response was panic. Around 6:30 in the morning, Aquila Degree, Asha's mother, went into her children's bedroom to wake Asha and her brother for school. To her horror, Asha's bed was empty. Thinking Asha might have gotten up early and gone to the bathroom, Aquila checked the house, but there was no sign of her daughter. The family quickly searched nearby areas, but as minutes passed, the realization set in Asha was gone. The family immediately contacted authorities, and within hours, a full scale search was launched. Local police, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and later the FBI were all involved. The initial focus was on canvassing the area around the Degree home and Highway 18, where Asha had last been seen. Despite the cold, rainy conditions, searchers worked tirelessly, determined to find any trace of the missing girl. Over the following days, the search expanded rapidly. More than 9,000 man-hours were dedicated to scouring the area within a 2 to 3 mile radius of where Asha was last seen. Flyers were distributed across the region, and hundreds of tips poured in from the public. Despite the extensive search efforts, the only tangible lead came 3 days later, on February 17th. Investigators discovered personal items belonging to Asha in a shed located along Highway 18, approximately a mile and a half from her home. The items found included a pencil, a green marker, and a yellow hair bow, all identified as belonging to Asha. These small clues hinted that Asha had taken refuge in the shed, at least briefly, during her mysterious walk that night. This discovery sparked a renewed surge in the investigation, with hopes that more evidence would soon surface. However, aside from these personal belongings, no further clues were found at the scene, and the search efforts failed to yield any significant breakthroughs. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation continued, but Asha remained missing and the trail grew colder. The discovery of her belongings in the shed was the first and unfortunately one of the last major pieces of evidence uncovered in the early stages of the investigation. For Asha's family, these small items were a painful reminder of her disappearance, and for the authorities, they only deepened the mystery of what had happened to this bright, beloved girl. As the investigation into Asha Degree's disappearance unfolded, investigators were immediately confronted with a puzzling set of questions. Why would a 9-year-old girl, described as cautious, responsible, and happy, leave her home voluntarily in the middle of the night? There were no signs of forced entry into the house, and nothing in her life seemed to suggest trouble. The questions of why she left and where she was headed became the central focus of early investigative efforts. One of the initial theories considered by investigators was that Asha's departure was planned, albeit in a way that reflected the mindset of a child. Asha had taken a backpack with her, packed with some personal items, including clothes and her favorite belongings. The items discovered later, a green marker, a pencil, and her hair bow, seemed to suggest that she had taken steps to prepare for her journey, but what triggered her to leave on that specific night remains unclear. A key element that raised suspicion was Asha's reaction to her basketball team's first loss of the season, just one day before her disappearance. According to her family, Asha had been upset by the game's outcome as she was highly competitive and took the loss to heart. However, they insisted that she had calmed down later that day and didn't show any lingering distress. While this may seem like a minor incident, some investigators speculated that, for a sensitive 9-year-old, the emotions tied to the loss could have sparked a decision to leave, possibly to escape the disappointment in a way only a child might understand. Another theory emerged from Asha's reading material in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Her class at Falston Elementary School had recently finished reading The Whipping Boy, a children's novel about two boys who run away from their lives and embark on an adventure. The book describes a journey of escape and self-discovery, with the boys ultimately returning home. Investigators wondered if Asha, inspired by the story, might have viewed her own departure as a similar adventure, with the idea that she could return home when she felt ready. This theory, while intriguing, was difficult to prove as no concrete evidence linked the book directly to her actions. However, there were still significant unanswered questions. If Asha had planned to leave on her own, why did she run into the woods when approached by a concerned truck driver? Where was she intending to go in the middle of a stormy night? These questions remained frustratingly elusive, as no solid leads pointed to a specific motive or destination. The more investigators delved into Asha's disappearance, the clearer it became that while she might have left voluntarily, something unexpected likely happened after she stepped into the darkness that night. In August of 2001, a critical discovery was made that breathed new life into Asha Degree's case. A contractor working on a construction project along Highway 18 in Burke County stumbled upon Asha's missing backpack. The location of the discovery was particularly shocking. It was found buried about 26 miles from her home, far beyond where Asha was last seen walking the night she disappeared. The bag was double wrapped in plastic trash bags, raising suspicions that someone had intentionally hidden it. This development deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance and suggested possible foul play. The FBI quickly took possession of the backpack and its contents for forensic analysis. However, despite the significance of the find, authorities never publicly disclosed the full details of what was inside. What is known is that the backpack contained several personal items belonging to Asha, including a book from her school's library and a t-shirt with a band logo that her family did not recognize. These items only added to the confusion. Why were they with her, and how did they end up so far away, buried? The discovery also intensified the belief that Asha may have been abducted, or at the very least, that someone else was involved after she left her home. The location where the backpack was found offered little in terms of further clues. Despite extensive searches of the surrounding area, no additional evidence was uncovered. Investigators were left with more questions than answers. Had Asha been taken by someone who later disposed of her belongings? Was the backpack placed there by someone who found it after her disappearance, or was it part of a larger, more sinister plan? Unfortunately, these questions remain unanswered, as the investigation into the backpack's discovery yielded no significant breakthroughs. This development, while significant, did not provide the closure that Asha's family and investigators so desperately needed. Instead, it marked a turning point in the case, leading investigators to shift their focus more strongly toward the possibility of foul play, but without the crucial leads needed to find out exactly what happened. To this day, the discovery of Asha's backpack remains one of the most perplexing pieces of evidence in her mysterious disappearance. In 2016, the FBI revealed a crucial new lead in Asha Degree's case. 16 years after her disappearance, investigators announced that Asha might have been seen getting into a dark green car on the night she vanished. The vehicle was identified as either a 1970s model Lincoln Continental or a Ford Thunderbird. This information came from witness tips, which suggested that Asha may have encountered someone driving this car shortly after she was last seen walking along Highway 18. This lead is incredibly significant for a few reasons. First, it provided a potential explanation for why Asha disappeared so suddenly and without a trace. If she did indeed get into this vehicle, it could mean that she either trusted the driver or was coerced into entering the car. The fact that it was an older, distinct model, a 1970s vehicle with rust around the wheel wells, gave investigators a specific detail to focus on in their search. However, this lead arrived 16 years after Asha went missing, creating challenges for the investigation. The delay in discovering this information made it difficult to trace the vehicle or its owner. Even though the FBI released images of similar car models to the public and urged anyone with knowledge to come forward, no substantial new leads emerged. Still, the possibility that Asha had entered this vehicle strengthened the theory that foul play may have been involved in her disappearance. The green car lead raised several key questions. If Asha entered the vehicle willingly, who was the driver and where did they take her? If she was abducted, why was she targeted? These are questions that continue to haunt investigators as they search for more evidence to uncover the truth behind Asha Degree's disappearance. As the investigation into Asha Degree's disappearance unfolded, her family's determination to find her caught the attention of national media outlets, helping to keep her story alive in the public eye. In the months following Asha's disappearance, her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, made several appearances on major television programs to raise awareness and appeal for any information that could lead to their daughter's whereabouts. One of the earliest shows to spotlight Asha's case was the Montel Williams show, where her family appeared to tell their story and appeal for national attention. This show gave them a platform to reach a wider audience, sparking more interest in the case and generating additional tips. Soon after, America's Most Wanted also featured Asha's case, hoping to tap into its large viewer base to gather new leads from across the country. These appearances played a vital role in spreading awareness of the disappearance and encouraging people to come forward with any information. In addition to these efforts, Asha's case was highlighted on The Oprah Winfrey Show, where her parents shared their pain and ongoing hope of finding their daughter. These appearances helped maintain public interest in the case, particularly since it was one of the most baffling missing child cases of that time. The combination of these media appearances, along with local and national news coverage, kept Asha's story in the spotlight, generating thousands of tips over the years. Even though many leads turned out to be dead ends, the family's relentless push for exposure ensured that Asha Degree's case remained an active investigation. The Degree family has continued to make public appeals, maintaining hope that someone out there knows what happened to their daughter. As the investigation into Asha Degree's disappearance dragged on, later leads surfaced, but often ended in frustration and disappointment for both investigators and the family. One notable development came in 2004 when an inmate claimed to have knowledge about Asha's disappearance. This led authorities to organize a search in an area near Lawndale, North Carolina, where the inmate suggested they might find evidence related to her case. Hopes were high that this could finally provide a breakthrough, but the search turned out to be fruitless. The bones discovered during the dig were determined to be from an animal, leaving investigators back at square one. This false lead was just one of many. Over the years, authorities have followed up on numerous tips and reports from people who claimed to have seen Asha or knew something about her disappearance. Unfortunately, most of these leads led to dead ends. Despite these setbacks, law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, continued to push forward, always hoping that the next tip might be the one that solved the case. In 2016, another potential lead emerged with a revelation about the green car, which briefly reignited hope. However, like many other tips, it failed to produce any concrete results. The ongoing lack of answers, despite extensive investigation efforts, has been a source of frustration for both the authorities and Asha's family. Investigators remain committed to the case, yet they've struggled to find that one crucial piece of evidence that could unlock the mystery. This relentless pursuit, despite numerous setbacks, reflects the complexity of Asha's disappearance and the dedication of those who refuse to give up. Even after more than 2 decades, the search for answers continues, fueled by the hope that someone, somewhere, holds the key to what happened to Asha Degree. The FBI has remained deeply involved in the search for Asha Degree, showing an ongoing commitment to solving the case even after decades. In 2015, the FBI renewed its focus on Asha's disappearance by launching a reinvestigation into the case. This included reviewing old evidence, re-interviewing witnesses, and following up on tips that had been previously overlooked or dismissed. As part of this renewed effort, the FBI also deployed its Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team to assist local authorities with the investigation. One of the FBI's key initiatives was the release of age-progressed images of Asha in 2014 and again in 2020, showing what she might look like as an adult. These images were created in collaboration with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in hopes of generating new leads and bringing attention to the case. The age-progressed photos aim to keep Asha's face in the public eye, reminding people that even after many years, there is still a chance she could be found alive. In addition to these investigative efforts, the FBI has offered a reward for any information leading to the resolution of Asha's case. As of 2016, the total reward for information stands at $45,000, with $25,000 contributed by the FBI and $20,000 from the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. This reward has been advertised through various channels, including billboards near the area where Asha was last seen. The FBI's continued involvement highlights the importance of the case to law enforcement and underscores their belief that new information could still surface. Even though the trail has gone cold at times, the FBI remains committed to uncovering the truth about what happened to Asha Degree. Their dedication to the case reflects the hope that someone somewhere has the knowledge needed to finally bring answers to Asha's family. Asha Degree's disappearance has left investigators and the public grappling with various theories about what could have happened to her on that fateful night in February 2000. The key questions center around whether Asha voluntarily left her home or if she was abducted, as well as the possibility of foul play. Each theory brings a different angle to this mystery, but none have provided the full answer to the puzzle. Theory 1: Did Asha run away? One of the earliest theories was that Asha, for reasons unknown, voluntarily left her home in the early morning hours. This theory is supported by the fact that Asha took her backpack with her, packing some personal items before she left, including clothes and her favorite belongings. The lack of forced entry into the house also pointed to the possibility that she willingly left. Investigators wondered if something in her life had caused her to want to escape, but by all accounts, parents, Asha had a happy home life with no history of behavioral problems. Psychologists and experts in child behavior have weighed in on the idea of a young child like Asha running away, pointing out that it's extremely rare for children under the age of 10 to leave home without a clear reason. Most runaway cases involve older children who are dealing with family or school issues. Asha's case seemed out of character as she was a responsible child who had never run away before, and there were no known problems at home or at school that would have triggered such a drastic decision. One theory linked Asha's disappearance to her emotional state following a basketball game the day before she vanished. Asha's team had suffered its first loss of the season and she had fouled out during the game, leaving her upset. Her family recalled that she was particularly competitive, and while she calmed down later, some believe that her disappointment may have lingered and contributed to her decision to leave that night. Theory 2 was Asha abducted? The second theory, which many believe is more likely, is that Asha was abducted after leaving her home. While there is evidence that Asha initially left on her own, witnesses saw her walking along Highway 18. The discovery of her backpack buried 26 miles away in 2001 suggested possible foul play. This, combined with the fact that she ran into the woods when a truck driver tried to approach her, has led some to believe that she was later taken against her will. A crucial element of this theory came to light in 2016 when the FBI announced the possibility that Asha had gotten into a dark green car, possibly a 1970s model Lincoln Continental or Ford Thunderbird. Witnesses reported seeing a vehicle matching this description around the time Asha disappeared, and this raised questions about whether she was lured into the car or forcibly taken. The idea that Asha trusted someone enough to get into a vehicle with them has fueled speculation about an abduction by someone she might have known. Theory 3: Foul play and psychological motives. While the possibility of abduction remains a strong theory, there's also the question of whether foul play was involved after Asha left her home. The fact that her belongings were carefully double wrapped in plastic and buried miles from her home points to an attempt to conceal evidence. This discovery led investigators to suspect that someone may have harmed Asha and then hidden her belongings to cover their tracks. Additionally, some have explored the psychological angle, questioning whether Asha was experiencing internal stress that led her to leave in the first place. While no clear signs of distress were reported by her family or teachers, some psychologists suggest that children sometimes hide their feelings even from those closest to them. Asha was known to be shy and quiet, which could mean that if she was dealing with anxiety or emotional issues, she might not have expressed them openly. The theories surrounding Asha Degree's disappearance are varied, and while each offers some explanation, none can fully account for all the strange and perplexing details of her case. Whether she left her home voluntarily and encountered danger later, or whether she was abducted from the roadside, remains unknown. Investigators continue to pursue these theories, but after over 2 decades, the mystery of what happened to Asha Degree endures, leaving her family and the community searching for answers. Asha Degree's disappearance sent shockwaves through her family, friends, and the entire Shelby, North Carolina community. For a tight knit town where such tragedies seemed unimaginable, the sudden vanishing of a 9-year-old girl left people grappling with a mixture of fear, sadness, and confusion. From the moment Asha was reported missing, the Degree family, their neighbors, and local authorities sprang into action, forming search parties and flooding the area with flyers. The Shelby community became deeply involved, driven by the hope that Asha would soon be found and brought home safely. For Asha's family, the impact has been immeasurable. Harold and Aquila Degree, Asha's parents, have never stopped searching for answers. Their unwavering hope and determination have kept the case alive for over 2 decades. They have made countless media appearances, including interviews and television shows, always making public pleas for information and urging anyone who knows something to come forward. The pain of not knowing what happened to their daughter weighs heavily on them, but they continue to believe that one day they will find out the truth. Friends and neighbors in the community have also been profoundly affected. Many who remember Asha as a shy, sweet child continue to hold out hope for her safe return. Over the years, community members have participated in annual walks and vigils to honor Asha and keep her memory alive. These events, organized by the family and local leaders, serve as a reminder that Asha is not forgotten and that the search for her is ongoing. Beyond the immediate community, Asha's case has also drawn national attention, with media outlets and organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children helping to keep her story in the spotlight. The FBI's involvement has also maintained national interest in the case. The collective effort of law enforcement, local residents, and national organizations highlights the widespread impact of Asha's disappearance and the strong desire to bring her home. Though 2 decades have passed, the Shelby community has not given up on Asha Degree. Her family's strength and the town's enduring support reflect a shared commitment to solving the mystery and finding closure, keeping hope alive despite the years of unanswered questions. Shah Degree's disappearance stands out not only for the tragic loss of a young child, but also for how baffling the case remains despite intensive investigations and widespread public interest. There are, however, similarities between Asha's case and other missing child cases, though hers continues to defy easy answers. One similar case is that of Kyran Horman, a 7-year-old boy who disappeared from his school in Oregon in 2010. Like Asha's case, Kyran's disappearance sparked a massive search and captured national attention, but even with extensive efforts by authorities and media coverage, the case remains unsolved. Both Chiron and Asha vanished without a trace, with no definitive signs of foul play or explanations for their sudden disappearances. Another case that bears similarities is that of Tionda and Diamond Bradley, two sisters who disappeared from their Chicago home in 2001. Like Asha, they were last seen near their home, and their case also involved years of dead end tips and false leads. Both cases are marked by the eerie lack of clues or closure, despite the best efforts of investigators and the involvement of national organizations like the FBI. However, what sets Asha's case apart is the seemingly voluntary nature of her departure, as witnessed by motorists who saw her walking alone on the highway. While other child disappearance cases often involve immediate signs of abduction or struggle, Asha's case remains particularly puzzling because of the mix of voluntary actions, packing her belongings and leaving home, and the unexplained disappearance that followed. This combination of a child leaving her home of her own accord and then vanishing has kept the case in the public eye, but also left investigators frustrated by the absence of clear answers. Despite similarities to other cases, Asha's disappearance continues to be one of the most baffling missing child cases in the United States. Asha Degree's case remains one of the most enduring mysteries in the history of missing children. Despite more than 2 decades of searching, following leads, and extensive public interest, the truth of what happened to Asha on that rainy night in February 2000 remains elusive. From the early morning walk down Highway 18 to the discovery of her backpack miles away, each clue only deepens the mystery, leaving her family and investigators with more questions than answers. But this case is far from cold. The FBI and local authorities are still actively working on it, driven by the belief that someone, somewhere, knows something that could finally solve this heartbreaking case. The reward for information stands at $45,000, with both the FBI and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office offering incentives for anyone who can provide a lead that brings Aisha home. If you have any information, no matter how small, it could be the key to unlocking this mystery. Asha's family has waited far too long for answers, and they continue to hope that one day she will be found. Please share this story, spread the word, and help keep Asha's memory alive. Someone out there holds the missing piece, and now is the time to come forward. Let's bring Asha home.